Seltzer is now live in over 2,500 locations across the United States. We're now available in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina, Ohio, and Texas. Go to hardafseltzer.com today, click on the store locator, enter your city or zip, and find the nearest location closest to you. Welcome to Drinkin Bros, presented by GhostBed.com. Yeah, welcome to Drinkin Bros, kids. We got a special Wednesday night edition here because we have a very, very important guest on the show today.
Future President of the United States.
Yes.
Hey,
yeah.
I'll take it.
Remi Adeleke. How did I do?
Did great. I like it.
Okay, good.
It's good.
Good.
Yeah.
Is it close enough?
It's close enough. I think you hit. I think you got a spot on.
It's Adeleke.
Adeleke?
Lay.
Yeah. Either way, dude, I love it, and I'm glad you're back.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.
For our everyday listeners, sometimes you have guests on this show, and at the end of the show, you get so wrapped up in it, you're not really looking at the clock. And I was like, dude, next time you're in Austin, just come. Yeah. We'll stop the world for you because I think you're a fascinating dude, and there was something really special about you. And I said, hey, just come, and then come in the studio, and then we'll chat about life.
Yes, sir.
Now, the crazy thing is, because we were chatting about this before we went on air, I said, hey, I'll just tell you this on air.
Yeah.
You were promoting your last book, Chameleon.
Yep.
And it was awesome.
Thank you.
But then once I started talking to you, we were talking about movies and your book and everything else. I was like, I told Dan, I go, I love this dude. I go, there's something there. I went back and bought your other book, Transformed.
Oh, yeah.
And I read it in like, I don't know, 2 nights. And I was like, holy shit. I had no idea the crazy life you had. Yeah. I just thought you were this cool author guy who was doing movies, Navy SEAL, all this other shit. I had no idea about your backstory. Yeah. And then I breezed through this book, and I was like, oh, my God, dude.
Thank you, brother.
This is wild.
It's been a crazy journey, man. It's been nuts. Sometimes I pinch myself when I wake up, and I'm just like, dang, dude, I'm blessed to even be here.
Well, let's go back to the beginning.
Real.
There's a couple of different things that happened throughout your life that are super crazy.
Yeah.
From getting out of a shitty situation to getting yourself back into one as a teenager to getting out of that into the Navy and then getting discovered by one of the top directors in the fucking world. Right?
Yeah, but
there's so much stuff has happened.
Let's start from Nigeria.
Yeah, let's go back to
because I read this book and it stuck with me.
Yeah.
I think we were here a year ago and I read it immediately and I was just like, holy cow. Everything, your entire life and journey stuck with me. So let's start with Nigeria.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your dad was essentially royalty over there. It works different than it does in other countries. Explain that to the audience.
Yeah, so my dad, he was the firstborn son to my grandfather. My grandfather had about 9 wives, and my grandfather was Muslim. And he kept on having daughters. And my grandfather was a chief. He was a royal chief in the Yoruba tribe. So in Western culture, we refer to royalty as king, queen, prince, princess, Dutch, that sort of thing. And Nigerian culture and a lot of other African culture, like royalty is referred to as chief in your last name. So my last name, Adeleke, Ade means crown, and Leke means is supreme. And then my Ade Remi means the crown has appeased me. And so my dad was the firstborn son. He became Adebayo Adeleke. And shortly after I want to say when my dad was about 8, 9 years old, my grandfather passed away, and all of the wives scattered to different parts of Nigeria. And my dad ended up going south to Lagos. And at the time in Lagos, there were Christian missionaries there, and not only did they teach the Bible, but they taught like math and science and literature and other things. And my dad was able to memorize. I mean, he memorized the Quran before he was like 8 years old, and so he was able to memorize scriptures, but also memorize mathematical equations and English and all this stuff. And he ended up getting a full ride academic scholarship to study engineering and architecture in London. So he went to London, got his bachelor's and his master's in architecture and engineering. He was on the board of the British Financial Planning Council in Great Britain, and then he was on the World Trade Center board in New York City. And then he decided, hey, I've accumulated all of this wealth in the West. I want to come back to Nigeria and create like a Nigerian Wall Street. And so that Nigerian Wall Street was what was supposed to be the Nigerian World Trade Center. And so that's kind of when I came along. So when I came along, I was born into the rich and the wealth and the lifestyle. We had nannies, we had cars, we had drivers. My dad was referred to as Chief Adebayo. So he had the status, but he also had the money to back it all up, and he had all pretty much built it up himself. So that was kind of like my beginnings in Nigeria.
Yeah, so you're technically a Nigerian prince.
Yes, so Chief. So my last name. Every time somebody says Adeleke, they're pretty much paying homage in some.
So you've
And everybody bows. They're like, oh, it's like coming to America.
Well, here I tell you a funny story. I remember when I was with the Marines. I was on a ship. We were doing some training on a ship, and I was standing in line for chow, and these two Nigerians walked by me. They had on coveralls. And they walked past me, and then they stopped, just like coming to America. And then they turned around, they came back to me and said, they started speaking to me in Yoruba. And they started saying, Adeleke, you are, and they said, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I'm sorry, guys, like, I don't know what you're saying. He was like, how can you not speak your tongue? You are Chief John, you are Remi Adeleke, your name is Adeleke. And I was like, I'm super sorry. So I am recognized, like when I went to Nigeria in 2018 and people saw my last name, and a lot of people know my dad's story in Nigeria. My dad is like very well known in Nigeria. They were just like, oh my God, Adeleke. So
Did you learn the language?
It was my first language. Yoruba was my first language, but I left, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but after my dad passed away and I came to the States, I didn't speak it anymore, so I lost it.
Were you the guy in like the early 2000s sending out all those emails?
That wasn't me, but it was one of my cousins. For
Yeah,
sure,
like
not me.
I gave you so much money, dude.
Ross is
so much
he's
money.
a Luddite. He doesn't understand technology, and he's not that gullible. But he just doesn't understand tech, so he's lost probably thousands of dollars to you guys.
I could be millions. I just kept sending it over and over again. It seemed legit, all of it.
Yeah, man, they're good at it. They got it down to a science. I mean, Nigeria, there's a lot of corruption in Nigeria, and that's what led ultimately to my dad's death and us having to leave Nigeria. But it's continued it's continued to cycle, and it's out of control, even especially in Nigeria.
Well, if you don't mind, I'd love to talk about your dad's death because in the book, it was a rabid dog.
Yeah, so it was a combination of things. So my dad, he engineered what's considered one of the first man-made islands in the world. It exists to this day. It's now known as Banana Island, but at the time it was known as Lagoon City. And so again, I mean, you read the book, so you know there's a lot more to the story. But
the audience doesn't, so fire away.
So before my dad got the lagoon, and that's it right there. Before he got the lagoon.
Oh shit!
Oh, popped it up on screen.
So this is before UAE tried to do the world islands and shit, because that was just like in 2015. I think.
Well, actually, I think that image has other stuff on it, but Banana Island. That's not Banana Island. That's like
Is it the one in the middle there to the left?
Bob's white, so it all looks the same to him.
Goes down to the right. It was on there. I think that's it right there. Well, anyway, I'll talk while you bring it up. But
yeah, that's fine.
Prior to that, my dad bought a massive plot of land called Marico, and essentially Marico is where he wanted to develop World Trade Center Nigeria, and it was essentially a dump. And then there was a coup in Nigeria, and there was a military coup in Nigeria, and everything was taken from everybody. And after that, after democracy was reinstated a couple years later, my dad went back to the courts, and he was like, "Hey, listen, I spent £8 million because he bought that land for £8 million back in the 70s. I want my money back." And the Lagos state government, the federal government said, "Hey, we're not going to give you your money back. We'll give you something else in compensation." So my dad asked for the lagoon. And they laughed at him. Like, "What are you going to do with a lagoon?" He said, "Don't worry about it." And so the federal government awarded my dad the lagoon. And my dad hired Dutch engineers, guys that he went to school with in London, and they dredged the foreshore, and that's how they developed what's now known as Banana Island, but was originally known as Lagoon City. And they developed it. They created that island. So they pumped sand and created the island. After the land had been fully formed, my dad started signing contracts with developers and different businesses. Disney, Marks and Spence. Oh yeah, Marks and Spence, a bunch of different places that were going to be housed there, along with the buildings that were going to be there, where people could come and do trade and do business. The Lagos state government came in and said the federal government wasn't supposed to give him the swamp as compensation. I mean, it was all corruption, because why didn't you say that when equipment started being shipped in? Why did you wait until the land had been formed after my dad had spent millions of dollars, to do what he did? So my dad went to court, started fighting the Nigerian government. We started getting death threats. He started getting death threats. And this was the Lagos state government. And then my dad, when he would get really stressed out, he would go out for walks. And we had a security guard that would go out with him sometimes for walks as well. And this night he didn't go out with his security guard, and a dog that had been in the neighborhood, like the neighbor's dog, like attacked my dad, and he got bit. But my dad went to the hospital to get medication. When he received the medication at the hospital, and the medication is ultimately what killed him. So essentially, he was poisoned. He was given, they say, bad medication, but on an autopsy, his heart was taken out, not from the rabies, but from the medication. So, and shortly after that, the Lagos state government kept it, and then my dad's personal security to this day is the manager of the island.
No fucking way.
I mean, that's not a bad job, because just a cursory search and finding like all kinds of articles about how the property there is going up in value.
Yeah, it's worth billions. The island alone right now is worth billions. Some of the richest Africans in the world have properties. The richest Nigerian in the world has properties on Banana Island. And my half brother, who's a lawyer, he's been fighting the Nigerian government since '87. And they offered us $8 million cash like 6 years ago, about 5-6 years ago. And my brother turned it down because it's like, dude, I mean, my dad bought it for 8 million pounds. I mean, 8 million pounds is a lot more than $8 million, but adjust for inflation and then all the money that my dad spent in order to dredge the foreshore and do all that stuff, we're talking billions of dollars.
I mean, there's are
you guys in a lawsuit over it?
Oh yeah, we've been in a lawsuit. We've been in a lawsuit since '87.
Just to give you some scope for this, there's 1,000 real estate properties for sale right now.
Yeah,
1,000.
Right now. On that island?
Yeah.
What are they going for, just out of curiosity?
I don't know how to do the conversion here. I got to look it up. What is this?
Naira.
Oh, that's puka shells. I'm kidding. I have no idea what that is. No idea.
I think that
it's a gummy bear glued on top of a seashell, and that's what the currency is over there.
1.2 billion.
Yeah, because you look at that number on Zillow. Bob, pop that up on screen. It looks so massive. You're like, what is that in real life?
Holy shit. I mean, this is 7.5. So 4-bedroom terrace duplex. 4 bed, 5-bathroom, and it's got elevator down to the beach, I think, and it's $7.5 million.
Is this? I think I'm looking at it on.
Yeah, $7.5 million.
God damn. Dude.
So yeah, they're not fucking around.
Yeah, but I hate the floors.
This is Bob watching House Hunters with his wife.
It sure is.
I like the floor. Don't get hung up on the color of the paint, man.
Yeah. I like Hilton Head better. I think Hilton Head's the one we settle on, which is nice. So. Yeah. Did you ever find out with the autopsy what the exact medication was that made his heart explode?
My mom has all of that information, but what we do know, what she does know, is that it was the medication that killed him, and he had one dose. And so here's another thing I forgot. I left out of the story, and I'm sure this is in the book as well. Well, I know this is in the book, but my dad, he didn't take the medication right away. He flew to Germany because he had to go do business in Germany. He flew to New York.
Man, this guy's a fucking hard motherfucker. He's flying to Germany. He's got rabies. Like, you have to get a shot into your...
He didn't necessarily have rabies at the time.
They were giving him prophylaxis for it?
That was what it was, yeah.
Okay.
And so, and then he flew to New York, and then he came back home. And when he came back home, he had our nanny, Jane, who was a maid as well. She set the bath. He went in, took the medication, and never came out.
No way.
And Jane went in and found him the next morning because he had never come out the bathroom.
And you were 5 years old at this time.
I was 5 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And so.
So what happens then? I mean, your mom's got to be like, we got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. My mom
like if the government kills your husband, you got to fucking leave.
Well, my mom wanted to leave for a long period of time. My mom, and I tell this story in the book. My mom would tell my dad all the time, let's take some money and put it in New York, put it in New Jersey. Let's take money and put it there because I don't trust this. My mom's a New Yorker. My mom was in Nigeria. My mom grew up was born and raised in Harlem. And so my mom had a lot of street smarts. And she said, we need to put money here in the States because if something happens, leveraged all his assets, all his art, all his property, every cent in his bank account for that project. And that's what they would argue about all the time. And so when it was expected. It wasn't like a big shock to her when he did die. And because we had gotten death threats, my mom had crazy stuff happen to her, and so when that happened, my mom was just like, we ain't coming back to this place. We ain't going back to this place.
And it's not like America where I'm sure you can just pick up and be like, all right, great, I'm going to list this on Zillow. My house. I'm going to sell my things.
Now you grab what you can carry and get the fuck out.
Yeah, is that kind of what happened to you?
Well, everything. My dad had leveraged absolutely everything for that property. So for Banana Island and for the development on it. So once that went, we were broke. We went from rich, but Dad was a multimillionaire, to poor. We had nothing. And
then it's just a flight over to New York City at that point.
Yeah, and that's it. And then we transitioned to the States, and it was me and my mom. And my dad had a condo, a co-op apartment in New York City, because my dad bought that like in the late 60s, early 70s, because he was on the board of the World Trade Center, and the Bronx was definitely a different place back in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. It didn't really change until 10, 15 years ago.
Crack epidemic.
Yeah.
Is what really took it over. And so we pretty much moved into that co-op apartment in the Bronx, man. And then over time, it was just the Bronx. And that was 87, so the crack epidemic was...
Did she have family here?
Yeah, my grandmother. So my
cool.
grandmother, she was in New York City, so she helped raise me and my brother. And then my grandfather, before he passed away, he would come up from Florida and spend time with us as well. So yeah, man, it was rough. But looking back on it, I wouldn't have never become the person I became if it wasn't for that hardship. I'd be a completely different brother, because I look at my half siblings, who had my dad and who grew up with them. I mean, they were rich. I mean, all of them went to boarding school in London. They all speak with British accents, and they're completely different people than I am.
I mean, that's the key. If you're wealthy, you got to put your kids into something crazy.
Yeah,
like 100%. you gotta fucking send them. Not to normal boarding school, but to the kind where they hit you with bamboo, like canes in the legs and shit like that.
Thailand shit.
Like for real, you've got to do something, man. Yeah. Like it's so rare that the child of a rich person turns out to even be a manageable, decent human being, much less successful. Yep. Just manageable and decent. Let's start with that, because most of them are fucking like. Not to talk too much shit, but we saw some 2 A-list celebrities kid the other day, like 2-3 weeks ago, talking about she's still wearing a fucking mask and talking about how her feelings are hurt when everybody else doesn't. It's like, dude, we're fucking years beyond this stuff. What are you doing? Like, you're just incapable of living a normal life at this point.
So how did they turn out?
Oh, well...
Because after your father died, one would imagine their money dries up too, so it's not like they can pay for schools.
They had already leveraged... They're a lot older than me. Like, my John is he's like close to 50 now. So they were already like through college and off into their careers, and the relationships that my dad had in the UK, he had passed them off. So my one brother, he was an accountant. He's done super well for himself. My other sister, you can look her up. She ended up going to jail. Because she was considered the Janine Adeleke. She was considered the madam of the UK. She had run this brothel, illegal brothel deal in the UK, and all of these big politicians. That's her right there.
That's her right there?
All of these big politicians were in on it, and she would provide these escorts and all that stuff. So, everybody was different, you know what I mean? And successful. She owes the government like a lot of money, like millions of dollars.
Bob, look at that. Did you put that picture on screen, Bob? You fucking did her dirty with that pic, Bob. God damn.
I mean, there was
others. You caught her in a car leaving fucking Walmart.
All the pictures are old. I don't think there's any good ones.
That one right there. Look at the look. Yeah, the look over her shoulder. That's a fun one. Use that one, Bob.
That one's all right, but it's small.
Blow it up. There you go.
And then the other one.
So she was a madam? She was like a madam of a brothel?
Of a high-end brothel. So all of these places, if you pull up the article, you see like all of these top politicians in the UK were busted in this this brothel ring.
You mean the
whatever
guys
she
that are
was.
sending people to prison for Facebook
Probably,
posts right now?
yeah,
Those
yeah.
guys?
Was it
Probably.
Was it Charles? Was it Chucky? Was
I don't know.
there anybody else?
I read the article a long time
Well, no,
ago
it would
when
be the other
actually
one.
happened.
Who's the guy with the puppet?
Yeah, who's the brother?
Prince Andrew.
Andrew.
That's it, Andrew. I don't know
Andrew.
my wife knows the royal family. I don't know shit about him. But
Andrew is like the biggest weirdo ever, man.
because if it's Andrew, then your sister's making a lot of money and there's a lot of puppets
Well,
around
she
the
ended up
house.
getting caught up, and she ended up, going to jail for it. So she ain't doing it anymore. But she was living a high life. She was making millions of dollars.
I
from
bet,
it,
yeah.
according to the articles and stuff like that. So, like I said, they turned out different, So again, I'm glad I didn't. It sucks what happened to our family, but I would not be the person I am today if I didn't have that hard freaking upbringing in the Bronx, because the Bronx was rough.
Yeah, and let's talk about it. I mean, look, you were trying to start a record label at one point.
Yeah.
And then selling drugs.
I was selling drugs, yeah.
At another point. What drugs were you selling?
I was selling dope. I was selling marijuana, dope, stuff that I should. I'm hesitating because I'm not proud to talk about them. Every time I do, my mom watches a podcast. She's like, "Why'd you bring that up? Everybody's gonna look at me like I'm a bad mom." So I
don't think so. Like, dude,
She does.
I don't
She
know
does.
that.
She
I
takes
don't
it
know
hard,
that
man.
everybody
changed your life so much that like,
yeah, the
why
to-
would you?
But for her, she always, especially when my book came out, she had a hard time with me talking about a lot of the stuff because she feels like it's going to reflect negativity in a negative way upon her and the mother she was at that time. And I tell her all the time, I'm like, Mom, but look at who I am now. But it's still, it's, in my opinion, it's something in the black community where, we like to keep our skeletons in the closet, and it's just one of those things where you never want to, instead of saying, oh yeah, Joey's in prison. No, he's at camp somewhere, you know what I mean? And so and even growing up, I just know that my mom holds a lot of pride, and I don't mean that in a negative way, just she just expected a lot of me, and she expected to be a better mother, and she was a fantastic mother. It's just like I tell people all the time, once a kid turns a certain age, if he doesn't have a father or she doesn't have a father now, ain't nothing mama could do. And that's just the reality. And this is the argument I have with my wife all of the time when, she gets on me about the way I discipline my kids. And I say, listen, Jesse, I need to deal with this now because you're not going to be the one dealing with it when my son's 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. And that was just a reality. My mom couldn't control me.
Yeah.
I'm taller than her. I got hair on my chin. I'm big. Like, there's nothing she could do at that point. And so, but yeah, I was out there selling drugs. I was running illegal scams and selling these phones, and I was making crazy money doing it. I was out there, and I was a product of my environment. Because I didn't have a father and I didn't look to positive influences as a father, I followed that same trend that a lot of kids in the inner city follow. I mean, you look at it in Chicago, look at it in New York City, and Philadelphia, and all these places where there's a lot of absentee fathers. What do you have? You have a lot of crime. You have a lot of drug dealing. You have why? Because there's no man to keep kids in check. And when a young African American man, in my opinion, when women are just naturally emotional, right? Like, and that's like there's two parts, and I talk to my wife about this all the time. Like, my job is to be logical, like logical and direct. And I don't mean this in a negative way, like logical and direct. Like, this is how we're going to, this is what happens. And there's a place for it. And then the mom's job is typically to be the nurturing, emotional type one. Yeah. And there's a place for that. And when you take one out of the picture, all of these young men, all they get is the emotion. That's what they learn. So they react out of emotion. Oh, you disrespect me, I'm going to shoot you in the face. Oh, you disrespect me, I'm going to punch you in the face.
But an emotional human being with high levels of testosterone is going to fuck shit up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, that can't be the case.
Exactly. And so, my mom couldn't control me anymore. And that's what led to me doing the things that I was doing and following, hip hop was big at the time. Street culture, rap culture, all of that was
you were in the heart of it, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, you were
especially right then in the late 90s.
Holy shit.
Like Jay-Z, 50 Cent. I mean, they both came from selling crack.
Yeah, Biggie.
Right?
Biggie, all those guys. I mean, it was everywhere, and it was glorified.
Yeah.
So as a kid, you were probably thinking, well, shit, I'm just following what my heroes are doing.
Exactly.
Who gives a shit about everything else?
Exactly. And they made it, so why can't I make it?
Yeah.
And that was the mindset. That was like the blueprint.
Like, I'm going to sell drugs until I can start this label.
Exactly.
Which is, like, not the most unreasonable thing to think, to be honest.
Well, when you see your heroes doing it.
Exactly.
You're like, all right, I can do this.
Well, for every one hero that makes it, there's 100,000 sitting in prison.
Yeah.
Or in
dead.
grave. Or dead in a grave, And so... Yeah, I did that, and then by the time I was 19, I had ridiculous money. I was able to now. Actually, by the time I was 18, I had a ridiculous amount of money. I was able to start my record company, which that was my goal. That was my end goal, was to follow that pattern that Jay-Z and 50 and them had done, was to invest the money into a record company. I had artists that I signed, and we were going out to and doing shows, and we recorded a compilation album. We were just doing all these things. My goal was to get a label deal. Like, I wanted to get a label deal under my production company, Eighth Wonder Entertainment. And long story short, I ended up getting involved with a drug dealer, sold them a bunch of phones. And when I was doing the phone thing, I was making way more money with the phones than I was selling drugs.
Burners?
The burner phones, yeah.
Gotcha.
I was making way
selling
more
to
money
immigrants.
doing that. Yeah.
Mostly
No
to make
shit.
calls overseas. Yeah, people used to fucking use fake credit cards to buy the calling cards, like 10, 220 and all that bullshit, or the phones that are preloaded, and you just sell them to fucking migrants and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's all cash, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. And people had to pay. So what I would do is I got a gig at a company. I won't mention that company's name, but
AT&T.
If it's Radio Shack, they're not in business anymore. You don't got to worry about that.
Well, I just always get nervous about it. But essentially, I was able to get a gig there, and I was able to get a license, and that license allowed me to activate phones.
Oh, shit.
So on one person's line of credit, I was able to activate 3 phones. The phones would stay on for up to 90 days. After 30 days, the person would get a bill. They would have 60 days to pay the bill. If the bill wasn't paid by the 90th day, then the phone would cut off. And so I would sell these phones to drug dealers, and the phones were free. So I didn't have to. It was like part of the fee was wrapped into the monthly payment. And so I would sell these phones, and I would sell them for anywhere, depending on the type of phone, anywhere between $500 a pop to $1,000 a phone. And then after 90 days, the drug dealers would come back to me and they'd be like, "Hey, I need another phone." And they liked it because they were able to escape and get away. And
It's untraceable.
It's untraceable.
It's not connected
And this,
to you
we got to
anyway,
remember, this is 2000. This is 2099, 2000,
There's no
2001.
digital footprint, dude.
There's
They
no
can't
digital
find
footprint.
you.
They
Well, no,
don't
I mean,
track
to get
these
a
things.
title through wiretap on something like that, you got to know the number, and you have to prove that it's associated with that motherfucker right there, right? How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless they call you, which that ain't happening.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So I was making crazy money, and then I ended up selling this drug dealer these phones, and I didn't want to do it because I had my system down. I would only activate a certain amount of phones in a period, in like a week, right? I wouldn't go over that quota to try, but then I would also activate legitimate phones, for legitimate clients, and then I was also getting the people's information from hospice. I had a guy who I went to high school with, and his girlfriend was a nurse at hospice, and so he would get people's date of birth, social security, address, name. That's how I would activate the phones, and then they would die, and it wouldn't show up on their credit. I mean, it would show up on their credit report, but it didn't matter because they're long gone and dead. And so, sold them these phones. It's supposed to last 90 days. They cut off in 30 days. Came to my house, threatened my life. Not my house, but my mom's apartment, threatened my life. My mom was in the other room, and that was my wake-up call. That was my, okay, I need to get out of doing what I was doing. And so I made him his money back, had money, gave him his money, made some more money back the next day, and that's when I decided I'm done with this street stuff. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just figured, I need to get out of here. And then I went full-fledged trying to sell the compilation album to get a production deal for my production company. And after the money ran out, all that died.
So did you look at your options at that point? Because obviously you go into the military, but did you sit there with like a pen and paper and be like, all right, record company failed. Failed as fucking selling drugs, and phones, and everything else.
Yeah.
What can I do at this point?
Nothing. Like they were like, and big part of it was my pride. Like I didn't want to go to college because to me that was beneath me. I guess again the way my brain had been conditioned, that was beneath me. I didn't want to get a regular job because to me that was beneath me, and so that happened in December of 2001. And then in June of 2002, it's all in my book. That's when I was like, I felt the call. I believe it was God. I felt God say, yo, you need to get out of here. And the military is your path out of here. And I knew it wasn't me because I hated the police. I mean, it was the way I was conditioned. I hated the police. I associated anybody in a uniform as a police officer. I hated authority. I hated uniform. I hated all of those things. I was anti-America. And which is crazy because I came from a country, Nigeria, which essentially
Killed
me
your
out
father.
and killed my father and took everything from me. And, you know, I'm in this land and I had a great disdain for America. And so when that idea popped in my mind, I battled with it for, you know, for about an hour or so. And I was just like, I'm not joining the military. I'm not doing that. I'm not, like, absolutely no way, no way. And then finally I just felt like this voice will say, look around your room. And I looked around my room and it was like, look at what your life has amounted to. Absolutely nothing. And that's when I said, all right, like, let's see what'll happen. You know what I mean? I said, all right.
What are they going to do, send me to war? You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's see what'll happen. And
What did your mom say?
I didn't tell my mom until, like, the day I was leaving.
Oh, boy.
Because, I'll get to that part of the story, because I knew she would be like, absolutely not. She would be like, absolutely not. But I went to the Navy recruiter's office. I went to the Marine Corps recruiter's office first. There was nobody in that office. Sat there for like 15 minutes, got up, left, went to the Army office. It was, I said, hey, where's the Marine Corps recruiter? And I don't see him in there. Like, what's the deal? And the guy kind of scoffed at me, so I was like, yeah, whatever.
There's a sale on crayons at CVS down the road, and they were just down there feasting.
Yeah, probably. And so I went to the Navy recruiter's office, and I got there, and this awesome, beautiful Navy recruiter, Tiana Nadine Reyes, and in my mind, I'm just like, not only am I going to join the Navy, but I'm going to get me a new girlfriend, and she saw right through me, and she said, hey, what do you want to do? And I had watched The Rock, and I was like,
The wrestler or the actor?
No, the movie.
The movie,
Oh,
fuckface.
shit.
Yeah, and that was my first exposure to Navy SEALs. Was the movie The
So
Rock.
It wasn't
Yeah,
Charlie
man.
Sheen then.
No, it wasn't. I watched that later after I joined the Navy.
Because usually everybody says the Charlie Sheen
No,
movie.
it was
The Rock was the
Yeah.
first one?
Yeah, that was the first time I heard of its Navy SEALs.
No
man.
shit.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
And so I told her I want to be a Navy SEAL. And she was like, yeah, whatever. So she went and had me do the practice ASVAB test. I took the test, passed it high, just like barely high enough to get into the Navy, but not high enough to get in the buds. And then she ran my background, found out I had 2 warrants out for my arrest. I had a warrant in New York, a warrant in New Jersey. Got up, ran towards the door. As soon as I got there, she yelled at me and stopped me, asked me where I was going. I said, I'm getting out of here. And she said, why? I said, because I'm not trying to go to jail today. And she said, asked me, do I have a suit? And I said, no. She asked me if I had a collared shirt and some nice pants. And I said, I'm sure I could find something. So she said, come back tomorrow. I said, for what? And she snapped at me and said, just come back tomorrow. And, growing up in the Bronx, you have to learn how to read people, especially when you're doing the stuff that I was doing, selling drugs and running cell phone scams. Like, it can mean the difference between prison or freedom, life and death. And so I had to learn how to read people, and what I had learned from her demeanor and her tone was whatever it was that she was going to do for me, it was going to be good. I didn't know exactly what it was. And I came back the next day, and she had on her dress uniform. She had on a dress uniform, and she put me in her government car. I had on my collared shirt and pants, and she drove me to the judge in New Jersey, drove me to the judge in New York, essentially stood before them, advocated on my behalf, said, hey, 9/11 had just happened 9 months earlier. This kid's trying to join the military after act of war. He's made some mistakes, but he still has potential. I can't put him in the military with warrants. And both judges cleared my warrants. And I just had to pay court fees and court fines. And then she went a step further, fudged the paperwork, which you had to fill out all of this paperwork about being charged and warrants and all this stuff, fudged all that stuff. And she stuck me into the Navy. And that was how I got into the Navy. And if it wasn't for that, if the Marine Corps recruiter showed up, I probably would not be sitting in this chair right now. Because I get messages all the time from young men and women who say, hey, I made this mistake when I was 15 or 16, and I can't join the military now. And I've talked to every recruiter, any advice you have for me? And I said, you got to just meet the right recruiter who's willing to take a risk on you. And she died 2 years after doing that.
No way.
Yeah. You could pull her up on the thing, Tiana Nadine Reyes, but she died of an autoimmune disease. And there's a lot craziness to the story, but I ended up meeting her brother. I was flying, this is way after I got out of the military, but I was flying to Atlanta, Georgia in order to advocate on behalf of this kid who was about to get sentenced to prison. And I was trying to get him sent to like a horse camp where he could tame horses instead of go to prison. And long story short, I had randomly met her brother like when I landed in Atlanta, Georgia, and I shared my story with him and what Tiana did for me, he was like, dude, that's what she would do. She would drive around the Bronx and she would look for guys who she grew up with, and she would just say, hey, listen, there's nothing out here in these streets. Come with me. Let's go into the military. She did it for him when he got some misdemeanors. And so that changed my life, man, from that big time.
Yeah. And then, you know, as the story goes in your book, as you continue on your military journey, you wanted to be a Navy SEAL.
Yep.
Can't swim.
Couldn't swim, yeah.
You know what I'm going to say next, right?
Didn't have the academic scores. Black people can't swim.
Yeah, why? Why can't black people swim? I don't get it. Because when I read that in your book, I was like, God damn, there's no way.
Yeah,
Black people in Mississippi can't swim, though, because there's lakes and shit to swim in.
Yeah.
So what's the...
Dude, you know what? I don't know what it is. I remember when I got to boot camp, there was like a division for like, it's full of black people because that division is specific. Well, not division, but like you have to go to this like training thing where if you fail the swim call and you have to do remediation, and every morning it's like pretty much all majority of the people in that remediation because you can't graduate boot camp until you can pass this basic little like swim thing where you get from one end of the pool to the other.
That's pretty
but I don't know what it is. I think, you know, resources probably like in the Bronx, there's a public
pool. That's
but you don't want to. The public pool's got glass on the bottom.
Yeah, I mean,
it's fucked up. I wouldn't get in that thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real. I mean, at least from what I can remember growing up, there's fire hydrants. You bust open a fire.
You bust a hydrant, you get one of those big gold cups, and you fucking put it over the end and squeeze it, so it fucking flattens the water out. And you spray people with it.
Yeah, I remember having that. But as far as you know, having like a pool to be able to go to in a neighborhood and learn and swim, those resources aren't available in a lot of industries. I think that's a part of it as well.
But a lot of buzz is in the water.
Yeah.
So how did you overcome it that quickly and able to do it? Because I think in your book, it was, correct me if I'm wrong, 29 of you guys made it?
29 out of 270,
Yes. So how did you learn how to swim that quickly?
I just wanted it, man. I mean, I stopped making excuses. I came up with a plan. And I had a deep-rooted emotional reason why. My deep-rooted emotional reason why is I had failed so much in life. I failed as a son. I'd failed in the music industry. I failed in the street. I just failed. I was tired of failing, and I just knew that I needed to do everything. I had to give it my all, and so I was just consistent. And I punished myself, regardless of whether it was freezing cold outside, regardless of whether I was sick. I went to the pool, and I created a chart. I created a chart, and every week I wanted my swim time. I had to get better by at least 1 second, and I just drove myself. I was self-motivated, and that's kind of how it all happened, man.
And what was the response from your mom once you had made it through BUD/S and you were officially a Navy SEAL?
Yeah, she was super proud. I mean, she came to my graduation, and it was so funny because, less than 1% of SEALs are African American, right? And so at our graduation, I was the only African American in my class. And before they started, before they gave the speech, the SEAL who was up on the podium gave the speech. She was like, all right, we're going to start calling out everybody's name to get their certificate. Nobody chant, nobody clap, nobody do anything until everybody has received their trident. And then I'm Adeleke, A.D., I'm first. And what happened? As soon as they call my name, my mom goes freaking ballistic. Everybody's head turns. Like, what is this woman doing?
Now, the good news is nobody knew that she was your mom, right? It's one black lady in the crowd and one black dude in the fucking thing.
Exactly.
It's like,
everybody knew. It's like, all right, we know whose mom that is.
Fuck.
But yeah, she was proud, man. I remember going back to your question before, like, how did she respond when I joined the Navy? She was just like, no. She was like, they're going to kill you. They're going to put you on the front lines, and you're going to die, and this and that. And I was like, no, I'll be fine, Ma. And yeah, man. And when I graduated from the teams, she was like, into the teams, I should say, she was really excited about it, man. She was just like really excited.
Because it's the best of the best. It's an unbelievable achievement.
Yeah.
And the scary part is you don't know where you're going, what you're going to do after that, where you might get sent.
Yeah, what was your wish list for teams?
I wanted to stay on the West Coast.
You just want to stay
I
West?
wanted West Coast. I didn't want to go back to the East Coast.
Yeah.
I wanted to stay as far removed from the East Coast as possible, just to protect myself and give myself a layer. And so I stayed on the West Coast, man. Yeah.
Because of the influences, you want to fall back with the old people and all that other stuff?
Yeah, I just wanted to.
It's a quick train ride from Palm Beach up to New York, man.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it was like, I left, I got out of that, and this was a new lease on life, and I wanted to stick with that new lease on life. I didn't want anything to influence this new chapter of my life. I just wrote, as I was telling Dan offline, I just adapted Chameleon into a TV series.
Which we talked about. You were going to start working on it. This was last year, but you didn't get to it until October.
I didn't get to it until October, and I started the outline, and I just finished it this Saturday.
Shit.
The last episode, and there's a line in the episode because it's a lot of this book is influenced from my life, and it's flashback chapters of him, the kid going up in Nigeria. One line that I wrote is. And I'm paraphrasing, so no writers out there steal it and put it in their movie or TV show. But a lot of Nigeria, the soil, you don't need fertilizer for wickedness to grow. And when we leave this place, everything stays, everything remains. Nothing comes with us into this new chapter in life. And I'm paraphrasing the line, but that's a line of dialogue in the last episode. And that's kind of was my mantra, unconsciously, subconsciously, was everything that was remains. This is a new life for me. Yeah.
And how is that going, by the way?
As far as
writing-wise, production,
it's going good. We faced our challenges. I think before last year I was here, we talked about the organ harvesting feature film.
Yep.
And the short film that is based off of, we got financing for the feature film, which is an extension of the organ harvesting short film, which is based on true events. We got financing for it. What we had a hard time doing is getting the type of actor that can carry the budget, because the budget is about $25 million.
You know who I said last time you were on the show, right?
I'm sorry?
You know who I told you last time you were on the show?
Who's that?
Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, he actually said that to me earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's for Chameleon.
Yeah,
that's
for Chameleon.
Yeah. This is a different project.
So that project, I'd love Jonathan Majors for Chameleon.
We'll tell everybody what happened with that one. Because Jonathan Majors is available right now.
Yeah.
I told you he'd get off. I was like, hey.
Yeah.
The tape was bullshit. It was all bullshit.
So talk about Chameleon or the organ harvesting film?
Well, let's talk about the Jonathan Majors one first.
Okay,
that's what we talked about last time we were here, and then we'll get to the new one.
Yeah, so for Chameleon, man, I'd love for him to play the lead role in it. I think it would be great for him. In my opinion, it's an actor's dream, because here the title of the book is Chameleon. It's like the spy has to become he has to become a different character depending on the situation. And so I think he would be freaking phenomenal for it, man. So if you listen to Jonathan, I got some work for you, brother.
Let's put out good shit into the universe. He's buddies with Jack Carr. Jack Carr's got, in my opinion, the best series that Amazon's ever produced. And they're coming out with the spinoff, and then season 2 of Terminal List will be next year, right?
You were in Terminal List.
Yeah, I was in Terminal List.
And Jonathan Majors just got pushed out of Marvel.
Yeah.
He needs a vehicle to lead.
Yeah, a nice little 7-year series would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Fucking awesome.
And
he's
then
a fantastic actor.
Then just to get hooked up with Antoine or whatever would be super nice.
Fuqua.
As far as action goes right now, is there anybody better in the game than that motherfucker?
He's a beast.
Like, for real. I can't think of anybody better than him in action directing at this point.
Yeah, he's great.
And now the new project. Where are you at with that one?
Yeah, so Unexpected Redemption, as I mentioned, we got the financing for it. We've just been struggling with getting the type of actor that can carry it. You're in the business, like you need a certain actor that can carry that type of budget.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the financiers are not going to release the financing.
Yeah.
And so
3 to 5 mil is one thing. 25 is a whole other.
Whole different ballgame. Because you got to find a global superstar.
I mean, that's the low.
International,
that's the low end of a studio film at that point. Right?
And we already and I can't mention the studio, but we also have a studio on board. So we already have a studio that's already watched the short, read the script, said, "Hey, we love this project. We love this package. Get an actor, and we will distribute this domestically." So we already got a big studio behind the film as well. What we just found an issue with is getting the agents to take me seriously, because from their perspective, it's like, all right, he's a first-time feature director, right? And so that's been the struggle, and we've gone to agents with cash, like, hey, dude, like, here's the money, like
We'll
for
pay
this
you.
actor.
Yeah.
This ain't no deal where we're trying to get your actor and then we'll go get the money. And we've just had a hard time. So what we've pivoted to is this small little indie film, $3 million indie film I'm talking about that we're going to shoot in Boston, either end of September, beginning of October. We have the financing for that. We're casting. We already cast, and I can't mention the actor's name, but a big actor for one of the roles. And that actor's actually an actor that we're putting, that's going to be an Unexpected Redemption. And then once we get through that post-production, we get through post-production of that, then we can, and we get out and do the festival, then we'll be able to revisit some of these big actors. Because then the agents will be like, all right, I'll trust this guy with my actor.
For an action movie, 25 mil is a good budget, man.
Yeah,
I mean, you can
100%.
get some shit done with
Oh
that.
yeah. And we're looking to shoot in Italy, and we're also looking to shoot in Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, so we get a good tax.
Dominicans, like
Yeah.
you save a lot of money down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my wife and I host another show, Ross Patterson Revolution. We just talked about this very similar situation with a movie that's out in the box office right now called It Ends With Us. And first time, feature director, wanted a budget. I mean, almost the identical budget you're looking for. They had to get a global superstar. It was Blake Lively. It was about 10 years older than the lead character in the book, but whatever. The movie opened up at $50.4 million over the weekend.
Wow, that's big.
That's why it's so important. Because the other guy, Bob, who's the other guy? I still don't remember his name. Jason
Baldoni, come on.
Baldoni, that's it.
What was the budget on that?
30, I think, on that movie.
What's the name of it?
And then it opened up at 50. It's called
good.
It Ends With Us.
25 million was the budget.
Oh, so close. I didn't even see the fucking movie, and that's how good I am, Bob. God bless me. A little pat on the back there, but it was based on a book. Book was huge, and but you still need that name. He's the lead opposite, and he's also the director. Same with you. So it's like, all right, cool, man. Who's that name going to be? And what I'm shocked at, and because we were talking about another project before, when Dan was doing, what were we doing, Newsmax? News Nation?
Newsmax with Carl.
Higby.
Yeah.
We'll post that. We'll post that interview later.
Another former SEAL.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's a fucking SEAL with a TV show.
Well, I'm sitting back there with Remi.
Everybody is a SEAL with a fucking TV show.
It's so funny. I'm sitting back there with Remi, and we're waiting for you to finish. And Remi goes, "Oh shit, I think it's a fucking trident on his lapel." Yeah. So he'd called it out from way back there, and I was like, "Dude, how did you spot that?" Fucking 2 miles out. But it was impressive. But we were talking about it back there where. It just takes that one name. They want the money and everything else. And then once it comes out and does well, then nobody gives a shit anymore after that.
Exactly. So it's a game, it's the Hollywood game, man. So I'm playing it, man. But it'll be all right. We're going to get this done. We'll get this first one done. We'll get Unexpected Redemption done. And then my book Transform got picked up to be a feature film. Long story, I ended up walking away from that deal. They were offering me tons of money, but they didn't want to give me the opportunity to direct it.
So you walked away from it?
I walked away from it.
No shit.
Yeah, they gave me the option. They said, the studio said, hey, either A, you sign this contract and forget about directing it. Or we will allow you to pitch to the studio heads for you to direct it. But I could tell you right now, the executive VP said, I could tell you right now, the studio heads are going to say no unless you have at least 1 or 2 features under your belt. And he said, or B, you can go direct a project or 2, come back, and then do your director's pitch. So I got that in the wings as well, to transform.
Yeah. And I was talking to my wife about that too earlier, because I was like, man, look up this fucking movie. What's the story with this Ends With Us? The guy had optioned the book on his own, this no-name dude. Kept it for 5 years, kept fighting the same way you are. And he was like, I'm directing it, I'm going to star in it, I'm going to do all this shit. And they were like, And then finally they got Blake Lively, boom. Goes into production and blows up. And the movie's about domestic violence, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. And here's the crazy thing: is a lot of people think it's not studios that greenlight films, it's agents that greenlight films, because agents know if this actor signs on, every studio is going to do the movie. So a lot of people think it's the studios that make movies. It's not studios that give the green light. It's actually the agencies, and so that's what. And there's a lot of politics within the agencies and who they want to let work with who. It's interesting, man.
It's not interesting. It sucks.
It does. It sucks. Yes.
Because you'll just chase projects for years, and sometimes go in circles. Sometimes it gets made, and all that other stuff. In the meantime, what are you doing now? Obviously, last time you were here, we talked about the Fox show with Rudy Reyes.
Yeah.
Which we all loved.
Yeah.
You're a natural on camera, one of the best there is.
I think so.
Has anybody else approached you about doing another one of those shows?
Yeah, I mean, I walked away from this Fox show. It was a lot to it. I don't want to get on, talk about it on camera, but I ended up walking away from that. I did like a show with Peyton Manning called Beyond the Battlefield that came out last year, so I did that since then. And then I got a project that I'm actually out here shooting that I can't talk about yet, but it's going to be announced in the next few weeks or so. But it's a pretty cool big project. So.
That's awesome because the Manning brothers are getting into producing TV shows and movies and all that stuff.
Yep.
They're doing one in Atlanta, I think, with Glenn Powell pretty soon.
Yeah, the football one.
The football one, Happen to know somebody in that. Can't say that either, but they start shooting, I think, in 3 days, actually, which is cool. But if you get in with those guys, it's great.
Yeah. They're good people, man.
Because we're all looking for great films and great TV shows again. They're just very, very slow to make it.
Yeah.
And early part of the year was a bad year for the box office, and now it's ramped up. Deadpool and Inside Out and Blake Lively's movie that ends with us. So everybody's like, oh yeah, let's make movies again.
That's not everybody though, because Lionsgate just had a big stinker with that video game movie that just came out this past weekend. What was it?
Oh shit, I didn't see that.
I didn't see it.
Only made $8.8 million on $150 million budget.
Well, you go up against Deadpool and Wolverine. That's tough.
It was with Kevin Hart, and I mean, it was a loaded cast.
Oh shit, I know that one. My kid wanted to see that one. But it looked awful. I think Kate Blanchett was in it too.
Yeah.
It's a video game, Borderlands.
Borderlands.
Dude, it was just a fucking Guardians ripoff.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like.
It looked just like someone did a different Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's a video game.
I know it is, but that's what it looked like. If you're not a video game player, which I'm not really.
I'm not either.
Like I know the big ones. Like I've heard The Last of Us and and that shit. But like Borderlands. I don't know that. So I just thought like, oh, someone ripped off Guardians of the Galaxy. Cool.
Yeah. Well, are you all locked into Hollywood? Or do you follow what's going on a daily basis?
Oh, absolutely. I follow. Yeah, I'm always dialed into what's going on day-to-day events. You know what I mean? Especially being a husband and a father, and and wanting a good future for my kids in America. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm all dialed in.
Because there was an event that happened today that I wanted to bring up the video and ask you about, if you don't mind. Bob, if you can go to Twitter and just type in the Taliban. So the Taliban had a
parade,
military parade.
I saw that.
With our own shit that we had left there. Pop up this video in case you haven't seen it.
I saw that today with the helicopters flying over.
So what are these?
Those are RGs. Those are MRAPs.
Yeah.
I think those are RG-33s or 31s.
Yeah. It's an MRAP. It's like a giant fucking truck. I think it's actually on like an F450 or 350 chassis or some shit like that.
Anti-tank. It's supposed to be anti-mine type vehicle. And
those are not American.
Those are Russian.
Those are MI.
Yeah, those are Russian. Those might be Heinz.
Yeah, man. That's Chameleon. If you guys read the Chameleon book,
yes,
I have a whole parade in the Chameleon book, and in the TV series, there's a whole parade of Taliban doing this exact thing. So when I saw this morning, I saved it and sent it to my sister, and I was like, dude, I have an actual scene of a parade.
Yeah, now you don't have to do a storyboard for you. You just show them this shit. Fuck, they did it for you. Send the Taliban a fruit basket or something.
I will.
Because production-wise, this would have cost you $8 billion. Now you don't have to do it.
Exactly.
You can just show this stock footage.
It's sad,
of this.
Are those choppers 40 years old?
They're more than 40, I would say.
That's from the Russian.
The Mi-17 Hein, I think, is from the 1960s, I think.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me look it up.
Yeah, it's nuts, bro.
Holy shit, dude.
As a matter of fact, I heard recently that most of the illegal arms trade that's going on from Afghanistan to other countries.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 1975 is when these things came out.
So are they selling our own shit to other countries?
100%.
What are
100%.
these?
The Taliban is.
Are these Russian too in the background?
Those are BMPs.
Those American.
Yeah, that's
American.
I think the Marines still use those, don't they? Those BMPs, like BMP 25 or some shit like that.
Yeah, I'm talking
armored vehicles.
No, I'm talking about these choppers in the background.
Oh, I can't. We definitely didn't leave any usable Apaches, I don't think.
No, that didn't look like an Apache. Was that an Apache? That looked like a Russian type of the Russian equivalent to the Apache.
I can't see it. It's too small.
Serious question here, and this is for both of you guys, because as a civilian, I don't know this shit. How do they even know how to drive and operate these vehicles and all this equipment and guns? And all this shit?
There's not even keys for these things. It's just they're diesel, so it's a glow plug.
Yeah.
Right. So you just like turn a switch on, wait for the light to turn red, and then you start it.
But they have, and again, this is a dumb question, but you guys have been over there. Yeah. They have gas stations readily available for this type of equipment and all that stuff?
Well, Afghanistan has oil. A lot of people don't know this. Afghanistan has oil.
And heroin. They're the number one producer of heroin
I
in the
did
world.
not know that, actually.
Yeah. That's like we were paying. Yeah. Well, for a while, you could speak to this probably more than I, because I never went to Afghanistan. But for a while, we shut down their heroin production, burning poppy fields and all kinds of other shit. DEA, for some reason, the fucking DEA was in Afghanistan burning poppy fields. And then all of a sudden, we're like, oh, we need these people to actually fight the fucking Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Here's all your drugs back. Or whatever. I mean, it's just like we're dumb as fuck. Yeah. That looks like a KA-50 to me.
Yeah, that's a Russian equivalent to the
Apache.
Pop that pickup one more time, Bob.
Okay. So it looks like they're only flying Russian.
Yeah, that's a KA-50.
But I also heard that the Chinese have been going out and did you hear that too? The Chinese
training these dicks up? Oh yeah,
getting them up to speed on equipment and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's what happened. And with they did that to Russia, or Russia left a bunch of equipment. I think they destroyed most of it, but they left a bunch of equipment in Vietnam back in the day. And I think we actually taught them how to use it, oddly enough, which is funny because then we had to go back and unteach them. I'm not Vietnam, I mean Afghanistan. I think we taught them. It was you've seen like Charlie Wilson's War, right?
Oh yeah, CIA one and CIA.
We couldn't have possibly fucked that up any more than we did.
But as you're watching this today, and you guys, both served and fought overseas, like, what are your thoughts when you see this? It's kind of shocking.
It's demoralizing. I mean, to think about all the guys who've gave their lives. You know what I mean?
I'm angrier as a taxpayer though. Than even a fucking gunfighter like that. This is billions of dollars worth of shit.
Oh yeah.
For no fucking reason.
Yeah. And did you hear about the mishap that was just the mishap, the financial mishap?
$250 million.
$250 million that was accidentally sent to the Taliban.
And then I'm sure you watch. Do you ever watch Sean Ryan's show?
I haven't watched any of the recent podcasts.
He had a lady on from the agency not too long ago, and a couple other people that corroborated as well. Yeah. We're giving the Taliban something like somewhere between $50 and $85 million a week.
That's nuts, bro.
Like what costs that much in Afghanistan? It's all rocks up there. Like there's nothing there.
It's not like there's sweet clothes. You're not getting Z Cavaricis for everybody.
They're just funneling money. That's all it is.
Man.
That's
nuts.
That's literally all it is. Yeah.
That's nuts, man.
Nunnally gave us $5 and he says, Ross, I'm currently sitting in the stands at the Creed concert.
Come on now.
I want to thank you for talking them back on tour.
Well, you're welcome, dude. Spoken into existence. I was going back to the new guy there, obviously.
Yeah. And then Dixie says, $50 for all the Drinkin Bros. The show must go on. I don't know what that's in reference to. Did somebody try to shut us down again?
Probably. Probably. We've been doing some wild shit over here, and not that we really care.
You know what? I'm actually impressed in a lot of ways, though, by the Taliban. One, in their ability to bilk money from us, but two, in their skating ability.
Oh.
Bob, can you find that video?
Do you have the skating?
Have you seen this before? No. Oh, man, this is going to be a nice treat for you.
It really will be. I've seen this video. I don't watch much.
I swear to God,
I've seen this one.
It's Taliban soldiers, if you want to call them that, on fucking rollerblades.
Oh, rollerblades.
Yes, sir. Right, doing fucking. Look at this shit. I swear to God.
How recent is this?
This is from like last year, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is what you call urban cab.
Yeah.
Look at that, dude.
That's a stable firing position.
No one slipped with their finger on the trigger.
No.
No.
Not like that's not even the good one. The good one is the guy like Michael J. Foxing it through the city, hanging onto the back of. There we go. Look at this. Look at this shit. They're on patrol, man.
That's crazy, man.
How funny would you if they asked you to do this? What would you say? Like, fuck, no, I'm not doing.
You were like,
shit.
yo, dude, I'm black. I already learned how to swim.
Like,
now I gotta fucking learn how to roller skate.
I'll never be able to go back to the Bronx if I fucking get on rollerblades, dude.
Holy shit!
People even do that in the States anymore. Rollerblade.
Gay dudes, I think, is it. Like down at Venice Beach, dude. You see people on rollerblades at Venice Beach.
I don't hang out. I've never been to Venice Beach.
Really?
Well, I've been there, but not in years.
They do in San Diego.
Not in years. But I have never seen anybody rollerblading down in San Diego.
My kid went to a roller skating birthday party.
Oh, yeah?
A couple months ago, and you had the option of the old school, those four orange wheels or blades. Yeah. And I was like, nah, dude. You give me
Here's my
wheels.
question about this.
Yeah.
What happens when the guy they're chasing just walks up, I don't know, fucking stairs?
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Or you just throw
the chase is over.
Oh, you just throw a stick.
Or you just
like a broom handle.
It's like a fucking Inspector Gadget. You're just dropping marbles out of the back of your car and shit. Idiots.
They just start firing upstairs. No matter
This
what.
isn't even the dumbest thing. I mean, the dumbest thing is that ISIS training video where they're doing barrel rolls and shit all over the place.
Completely necessary. All of it was completely necessary. Like somebody was asking me in the chat about the bandana here around my wrist. It's because it's so goddamn hot in Texas.
Yeah.
If you notice, at the beginning of the show, I was like dabbing myself. That's why.
Yeah.
I'm going out to on a date with my wife later, and I'm like, hey, I got to tie this around. She's like, I get it, dude. It's 109 degrees here. And I was like, because I don't know what's going to happen. Here's that ISIS training video. Yeah, pop this up here, Bob, if you can. Hopefully CNN won't ding us.
Do you remember that part in Buds where they were kicking you, kicking you in the chest?
Yeah.
The fuck?
Look at this, dude.
What is he dragging behind him? What is that?
Is it a chain?
How
Some
recent
type of
is
chain? Oh, yeah, it is. They're roping
is
this
from years
motherfucker
ago,
up on a
right?
chain.
This is not. It's not that long ago. It's when ISIS was still in Iraq, so like 2017, probably something like that.
Look at these front kicks by this guy.
Oh, are they showing some dude?
Beautiful, dude. Beautiful on that guy.
That's nuts, man.
Look at. I mean, are they even holding the weapons right in those videos? Look
I
at
mean,
that.
they're holding them right if you watched 80s action movies, which is where they learned how to fucking shoot.
Look,
We tried to teach them how to shoot, and they would not pay attention, so we just stopped.
There's no wrong way to hold a gun, all right?
That's just not accurate at all, Bob.
And then these little videos they're showing here with the fake AI and all that stuff. You're like, how are we losing? How are we losing to this?
Because we don't have enough jungle gyms. We
Is
don't
that
have.
what it
We're
is?
not. Yeah, we don't. We're not fucking doing whatever that monkey bars. We're not doing enough monkey bars.
Well, that was the Al Qaeda training video.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
that's the
true.
one you were
There it
thinking
is.
of. That's like 2004.
Bob's on it. Look at this one. Yeah, monkey bars.
at that.
That's the real way.
He's training for the fucking Olympics over there.
Remy, you couldn't do any of this shit, dude.
Not anymore.
How many times?
We do have the O course in Buds, which is a kick in the nuts.
Yeah. I mean, it's a much bigger kick in the nuts than this. That's like 36-inch high concertina wire. It should be like 18 inches.
Yeah.
Ah, that's wild to watch, dude. God damn it.
It's really funny.
Shit.
And this is why it makes me angrier as a taxpayer than a veteran, because we spent 20 years fighting those people to exchange them for themselves. 20 years, $5 trillion. It's
Nothing ever happened.
Not one thing changed. Not one thing.
But we're doing the same thing now. We're giving freaking all these migrants all of this money.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
Oh, yeah?
I
Wild.
just texted my mom. I was like, asked her what her Social Security was, and because I saw a report that what they're getting, the migrants are getting in New York City, and it's like what my mom's getting is a fraction of Social Security.
Yeah.
What my mom is getting is a fraction of Social Security to what these guys, the migrants, are getting in New York City.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
You know
wild.
what I mean?
Finally, Eric Adams is like, hey, we should knock this shit off. Like, dude,
crazy,
you're the
man.
mayor.
Yeah.
Stop telling us what we need to do and do something, you son of a bitch.
You know what's weird though, man, is like people are starting to talk about it. We flip these trucks for work. You get a $25,000 tax write-off for a truck over 6,000 pounds or whatever. I had to get a bed cover put in on the back of it, and I had to go down to our old studio on Ortshof. There was a Mexican dude across the street from us who ran this body shop, and he would do it for $100.
Yeah.
So I go down there.
He's Honduran, by the way.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I think he is because they have a Honduran food truck out front. It has a Honduran flag on it. That's all I know.
No
He could be
idea.
Mexican.
I'm not a
I've
big
eaten
flag
at the
guy.
food truck.
Yeah.
Oh, have you?
It's,
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, I go in and homie's iced out like Paul Wall.
Yeah.
Grill, everything, but it was, gold. And he was like, oh, shit. And he was like, man, I'm doing it, dude. I'm doing the American dream.
Yeah.
And I had to wait for like 15 minutes while they were finishing up. And he sits down next to me and he goes, hey, man, I still listen to the show, even though you guys moved. Because we were building this when we were renting that other place. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And he goes, your partner was right, by the way. He goes, you're host on the show. He goes, he's right. And I was like, what do you mean he's right? And he goes, we're going to fucking outnumber you and take over this country.
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's what it is.
I go, what?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, man. He goes, "Ooh, I work with a lot of white people. He goes, very smart, but none of them want to have kids.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he goes,
100%, yeah.
We come in here. He goes, if this next administration lets all these illegals in, and he goes, it's going to be a fucking domination.
No,
You'll never be
100%.
able to recover.
No.
I don't give a
100%,
shit what.
100%.
I don't care if they're white or not.
Me neither.
Be American.
Yep.
That's it.
And
I don't give a fuck.
And by the way, that was his concern too. He goes, because I was like, hey, so are you rooting for or against? And he goes, financially, I want Trump to win. He goes, I'm all in on Trump. We're all in on Trump. Financially, shit was great. And he goes, you look around the shop, there's nobody here now. And I go, no, I'm the only one in here right now. And he goes, it's not great. And he goes, also, I'm proud to be here.
Yes.
Proud to be an American. And he goes, I'm proud that, I'm raising my kids here and everything else. And it's awesome. But he goes, if they let in another, 9 million people, 10 million people, or whatever.
It's going to be a wrap. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're already in a bad spot with all the unaccounted bad dudes that cross the border. You know what I mean? And
like
it's just a matter
Tren
of
de
time.
Aragua, right? The Venezuelan gang. We're so dumb. People are so the American public is so fucking stupid.
Well, it's media though. Media.
I think it's
gullible.
We'll find out in November, but we'll find out.
I think it's people are so gullible and they're too trusting of the media. But I think that's going to change.
You would think so after all the lies recently that they're demonstrably untrue. But there's this. So when Trump took office in 2017, even when he was on the campaign at 16, one of the things he said was they're sending rapists and murderers over here, and people are like, that's racist. Why is it racist? Rapist and murderer? Neither one of those are fucking races or ethnicities, right? So here's the facts as they are on the ground now. At least 70. Tren de Aragua, which is the biggest prison gang in Venezuela, members have been detained at the border of the United States. Who knows how many have actually gotten in, right? Well, we do know they have multiple cells throughout the country operating in the open. The FBI is tracking on them now,
in
right?
New York, too, big time.
In New York, in Chicago, all over in Detroit, they're all over the fucking place. And then if you can look this shit up on Google or Bing or whatever you use. If you search for Venezuela crime going down or crime down. They're at 22 year lows now for crime. It's like, okay, so they're like, well, we can't actually prove that they're emptying their jails into our country. It's like, okay, all of these people from known gangs are coming into the country, right? Estimates of the active members in the U.S. right now are somewhere around 1,000, right? 1,000 or more. They're coming into our country, and then the country they came from, crime is down. It's like, all right, cool, man. Maybe I can't prove that's exactly why, but I'm not a fucking retard either. You know what I mean? I understand how the world works. For fuck's sake, that's clearly what's happening. It was nothing he ever said about that was racist in any way.
No, and
he's just pointing it out. He even said I'd do the same thing if I was down there. If I'm trying
to get out of there, to get into America,
man.
Or just let it say, hey, man, I want the crime out of my country. You can go to another country. But the guy today said, he goes, watch out for El Salvador. He goes, El
that's
Salvador. He goes, bro. He goes, that's the ones you don't want here. And it was a Latino dude telling me this shit. And
we've had MS-13 in California for a long time, but we're talking about the real, deep MS-13. Those, the roots of it. Those are some savages, man.
I mean, there are fucked, and that's been going on since the '90s with MS-13. Maybe a little bit in the '80s, but mostly '90s, 2000s, 2010s, and now. And we're talking about thousands of these motherfuckers are here. Thousands operating in parallel economies, terrorizing neighborhoods and shit like that. Fuck those guys. It's got to be really bad to be an El Salvadoran person who actually came here to try to become an American and have a better life. And that same motherfucker from down the way that's caused you problems your entire life is now living across the street from you, causing you the same problems. How the fuck is that America?
That's what he was worried about. That's what he was worried about today. Where he's like, yo, dude, I came here and started a fucking business and successful. Everything's awesome. And he goes, let's not fuck it up.
I know.
And this is just a normal dude. And we were not in a great part of town down there. But
and the crazy thing is, too, it's a lot of these inner cities across America are the ones that are getting dumped with these, and the crime is going up in these inner cities
that were already bad to begin with.
That were already bad.
Now you're just adding more crime.
Exponentially worse. And then all the resources, the financial resources, are being stripped from the communities to go to the migrants.
To go to them.
It's nuts.
So you can't fix the problem.
Yeah, it's like hypocrisy, dude. It's it sucks, man. Especially being a veteran, dude, and it's just come on, man. Man up, dude. Let's do the right thing. We gotta shut down the border. We gotta freaking get all of these people out, because at the end of the day, it's gonna be them that's terrorizing our families. You know what I mean? And causing.
Fuck that, dude. I mean, it started to make its way to the hinterland. I had a conversation last week with the Montana Attorney General, and he was like, we've always been a border state with Canada, and it's never been an issue because we do quite a bit of trade. A lot of beef, a lot of oil, right, comes through there. A lot of liquid natural gas as well. It's like now we are a Latin American border state, and we're the one of the most northern states in the U.S. But there's like illegal immigrants from Latin American countries all over the fucking place. In Montana,
no shit.
It's like, what the fuck is going on, man? And you know, I mean, I didn't know how I should really feel about it when Abbott and DeSantis and a couple other governors started sending illegals to the cities, right? But it's paying dividends, honestly. Like it made the problem worse to some degree. And it certainly made it worse for New Yorkers, right? Especially New Yorkers.
But it brought the problem to their front
and
door.
Chicagoans, But now you have the mayor of the city saying, "Hey, right now, Manhattan or New York City law is that we're not allowed to take this illegal immigrant and give them to ICE. It's illegal for us to do that, and that's fucked up." He did a news conference about it earlier today. He's like, "I don't like this law that's in place."
So he's saying that he wants to stop that law.
Yeah.
He's saying
he wants to
they
get
don't
rid
want to
of-
be New York a sanctuary state at all.
He doesn't want to be a sanctuary state or city. He wants to get rid of the law where they don't have a detainer, right?
Bro, I'm seeing
like that's a wild shift from when he took office
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Dude, they're beating up people on the street. Like, dude,
and we should have
crazy.
seen this coming. It's been happening in Europe for 10 years now.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's for 10 years this shit's been going down with African and Middle Eastern migrants coming in fucking them up. What do you think, like, gangs from Latin America are going to do the same thing that gangs from other countries do? Of course they're going to fucking do that, man.
Gangs are gangs, bro.
Yeah.
Can't all be fucking Remy. Take matters into your own hands and change your life, you know?
Exactly.
God damn.
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate you being here. Now's the point in the show we get to the Drinkin Bro of the Week, which is someone who has inspired you or helped you become the person you are today. Who would you like to give it to? I think last time you gave it to the woman who
My mom?
Yeah.
Did I give it to my mom?
No, I think you gave it to the woman who got you into...
Oh, the recruiter? My recruiter?
Yeah. If memory serves me correct, but it usually doesn't. Let's be honest. You can give it to everyone. Give it to fucking 5 people.
5 people. Man, I would say my kids, man. You know, my kids drive me, dude. Like, they motivate me. I got 4 kids, Caden, Caleb, Carter, Sienna, and they motivate me to be a better man, to work hard, to grind, to, you know, try to influence the masses for the positive so that we continue to have a great nation, you know what I mean? And so that my kids are my everything, dude. So I would say that those are my drinking bros and little sis. So I don't know if that's cheesy, but that's...
It's not at all. And like, to your mom out there, if she is watching, I hope she doesn't take offense to any of this, because I think telling your story changes a lot of people's lives.
100%.
So, like, if you don't tell the negative to get to the positive, then everybody thinks they're just going to grow up and it's all going to be amazing. It never is.
100%.
Never is in any facet of life.
100%.
Unless you grow up in some crazy rich family, and even then, you could end up like Hunter Biden or Violet Affleck or one of these other fucking where you're just like, all right, cool. So for me, I enjoy hearing your story. I enjoyed reading your book and everything else. And after I read it, I was like, dude, next time he comes down, get him in the studio. I don't care what time it is. I'm going to ask him about his life. Thank you for doing it, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you both always. Thank you for always supporting me and riding with me. And yeah, man, I appreciate
anytime.
you.
You're always welcome here anytime. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
I'm on Remi Adeleke.
Good luck fucking spelling it, assholes.
Adeleke on Instagram, Twitter. Or you can just go to Kejoware, KEJOware.com and get some of our gear there and find me there. But this is our organ harvesting, human trafficking, anti-child child trafficking shirt. So you can go out and support us there as well.
Awesome. Awesome. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Sorry we were a little bit late today, but it was worth it. It was worth it. Remy fucking rocks, dude. Go to iTunes, rate the show a 5-star, and leave a quick review. Also, head on over to Spotify. It's just a 5-star, and you can walk away. For D'Anthony Hollaway, I'm Ross Patterson. This is the Drinkin' Bros podcast. Good night, everyone.